Welcome back everybody to the 21st episode of Quickfire Crypto, where we keep you informed on a bi-daily basis. If you're interested in keeping up to date on all things crypto, then subscribe to the channel. We put out a new video every 12 hours. So today we're going to be talking about an article I've found in Crypto News, and it's about comments made by the former US Treasurer. And he's comparing the FTX collapse to the infamous Enron fraud, and it says in quotation, crypto regulation incoming. So let's see what this is about. It starts off, now for anyone who doesn't know what happened with Enron, it was a huge scandal that was sort of parading as a normal energy company, but was falsifying its numbers so that it looked more attractive. It was playing around with the numbers when it come to the liabilities, so it was not being completely honest. I think they were just basically making the numbers up, and there was a huge scandal in the early 2000s about it all. And it was so big that they actually changed the laws around how accounting firms carry out the checks and balances for companies going forward. And it was basically about an accounting term called mark to market, and its effect is basically being able to recognize revenue when you have no revenue. And so the earnings were false, the liabilities were false, meaning the debts that they had. And Ken Lay and Jeff Skilling ended up, well, Ken actually died before he got sentenced, but Jeff went to prison for, well, I think he was released in 2019, so I think he went to prison for about 15 years, but got sentenced to about 23, but I think he got released early due to good behaviour. But the point being that the laws were changed, and how companies reported, and their accounting companies that looked after the numbers reported thereafter had to do it differently and had to be more open and honest. And with FTX's collapse, I think Larry Summers is now going to be talking about that this may trigger a change in how exchanges report to the Securities Commission in the US. So let's jump straight in, and we'll talk about it more later. So former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has compared the sudden fall of cryptocurrency exchange FTX to energy trader Enron's scandal in the early 2000s. In a Wall Street Week interview with Bloomberg, he said that while a lot of people have compared this to Lehman, he believes it is more similar to Enron's scandal. Lehman Brothers was an investment bank that collapsed in 2008. It marks the bankruptcy of its time, as its liquidation took 14 years. Trustee James W. Giddens was ultimately able to return more than $115 billion to customers and creditors, which is really great actually, because I don't think there's going to be anything left after this FTX debacle. I don't think there'll be anything left to give back to users, unless the government steps in and says that they're going to recompense users, but that's well, we'll have to wait and see for that. On the other hand, the Enron scandal was an accounting scandal involving Enron Corporation, an American energy company which declared bankruptcy in 2001 after it was discovered that the company had engaged in shady off-the-books business and accounting practices. They were just basically lying about the numbers, and it was just out-and-out fraud. A lot of people have compared this to Lehman. I would compare it to Enron, Summers said, adding, "The smartest guys in the room, not just financial error, but certainly from the reports, whiffs of fraud. Stadium namings, very early in a company's history, a vast explosion of wealth that nobody quite understands where it comes from." And that's SBF. I mean, he rose to fame in 2 years. He started FTX in 2019. So in the last 3 years, and it became what is rivaling Binance, the biggest, or one of the two biggest exchanges in the business. In just 3 years, so that shows you how quick he was doing all kinds of things. He was making donations to the Democrats, and he was the Democrat Party in America. He was the second biggest donor, so he was moving in all kinds of big ways, not just with FTX. Summer's comparison between FTX and Enron comes as there are numerous similarities in the way they collapsed. For instance, Enron signed a $100 million 30-year sponsorship deal with the Houston Astros to name their stadium Enron Field, while FTX signed a $135 million 19-year deal to put its name on the FTX Arena, home of the NBA's Miami Heat. As reported, FTX's desperate scramble for investors to repair its balance sheet eventually ended on Friday after the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, capping a sudden and startling downfall for one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges, which we know all about. Notably, FTX US, the US arm of the crypto exchange, has also been included in the proceedings, despite claims by the former CEO that their US exchange was fine. And we've now learnt that they have actually been mixing the funds, which is completely illegal. They've mixed the international, which was supposed to be a completely an utterly separate legal entity. The FTX US and the FTX International were supposed to be two wholly different legal entities working in completely different jurisdictions, but he had mixed all the funds together and been using them and loaning them out, which is just not allowed. While many industry experts have warned that more regulatory scrutiny is coming following the FTX drama, some has noted that the exchange's fall is not much about lack of regulatory oversight, but rather about very basic financial principles that were ignored by FTX executives. He says, this is probably less about the complexities of the nuances of the rules of crypto regulation and more about some very basic financial principles that go back to financial scandals that took place in ancient Rome, Summers said in the Bloomberg interview. And so when we've got the former US Treasurer who understands everything about commodities, all things to do with the securities, I mean, this guy is a real veteran of the financial world at high level. So when he starts saying things like this, I think it really is hitting home for everybody in crypto that exchanges are going to be far, far heavily regulated than they are now, or were, because they don't want to see people getting burnt like has happened. For better or worse, some people in the crypto world don't want regulation, that think that we take responsibility for our own money, but there's a lot of people. It'd be hard to argue now if you were a user and you'd lost money in FTX that you would not want regulation in future, because it's very, very damaging what's happened. So that's what I've got for you today. Remember, everybody, to subscribe to the channel, join our team. We'll keep you updated on all things crypto every 12 hours. Smash the like button if you feel you got value from this video, and I'll see you all in 12 hours.